However, I feel anything but pride about. Hi, my name's Anisha. It's Disability Pride Month, and I feel anything but prideful. So my gift to you is to just be a bitch. So I usually do these videos a bit differently. I tend to start out with like, oh, here's the context and society and here's law and whatever. Then I go into what I think. I'm going to kind of flip it and reverse it and just talk, which is what I used to do on here. But I think it's appropriate because I have wanted to talk about my feelings about Disability Pride Month for years. And I think this is the first time I've been able to develop the language to do so. So indulge me, if you will. So I've been doing shit like this since I was, about 15. So over 10 years at this point. It started out because I was a victim of a racist incident. My family were a victim of a racist incident. And I wanted to sort of unpick as to why that happened, because I was just witness to it, because I was too young to understand what was going on around me, but I was old enough to know that it wasn't right. And around the same time, I think Mike Brown died, and again, I just needed some sort of confirmation that I wasn't confused and that I kind of knew what I was talking about. So I did reading and I started to really research things, and that's where sort of this trajectory started. I started at a small magazine in Tottenham called Women's Music News. Hilariously, that's also where I discovered about transness and trans misogyny and how a lot of women organisations tend to be quite exclusionary. That's funny. And I got kicked out of Women's Music News because I was contesting with the manager about their involvement with the police and black children. Again, put a pin in that. So yeah, I've been doing this shit for a very long time, and I have come against obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, like the podcast. You don't need to listen to that. But yeah, there's a lot of law in Anusha's talking time. I don't know what you want to call it. But again, I'm not like the person to start this shit, but I love talking about everything that's going on. I like to connect the dots and create a sort of spider's web. I don't like to talk about one thing. I am surrounded by people who are very, very eager to learn. They love education. I want to take a minute and speak their name, Patty Byrne. They were part of Sins Invalid, and they talk a lot about disability justice as well, why not? Well, they talked a lot about disability justice. They talked a lot about fat liberation. They talked a lot about racism and, again, connecting the dots. And I want to just speak true to their name because they are so imperative. They are so important to what I talk about on here. And again, I kind of done it without them. I don't know them, but like I know of them. So I just want to take a minute and say rest in peace, rest in power to Patty Byrne. I think I really want to divulge into the difference between disability rights and disability justice. Like, disability rights is all well and good. You know, disability rights has been around for eons of years. But I think when you look at the past, you look at certain movements, you realise that they're quite, some of them anyway, are quite one note. Or actually, is it because they're one note, or is it because that's how they've been recorded? Food for thought. Anyway, I think people across the board felt like it was just talking about individual issues like, you know, travel or home care or whatever. So disability justice was more of a look at the overall idea of what we as a people could fight for. Yes, it would look at disability as a whole, but then it would question, well, what is disabled? How do people become disabled? It's not just genetic, it is sometimes environmental. You know, speaking of AI, if you are poisoning the air and you are creating something called like Cancer Lane or whatever, then that's environmental, and it's environmental racism because they tend to do it in areas that are poorer. Why is that? Well, capitalism and, you know, production or whatever. And yeah, it all connects. So I was really contending with why I felt so uncomfortable with Disability Pride Month. And it's purely because that a lot of people, whenever they talk about disability pride, or they just talk about disability as a whole, even if they call it Disability Vengeful Month or whatever, they tend to be talking about one issue, or they talk about one thing, and they'll sprinkle in a little bit like, we're all connected, you know, what's the phrase that they like at the moment? We all got to look after each other. I can't remember it right now. But they'll sprinkle a little bit of that, but really it's just about one thing, or it's about a couple of things that are personal to them. It very rarely is about the whole picture. And let's say they get everything right, they get all the wording right. They very rarely practice it. And this is where I'm going to take a minute, and we are going to play the ether beat in the background, editing Anusha. Now I'm going to start getting mean, because what I have found in 2025 is that people have been testing my patience, and I've kind of had it. I've kind of had enough, and I just want to get this off my chest and, you know, leave you with, please do not piss me off in the future. Okay. The thing I very much dislike about certain disability, I'm going to call them influencers, but I don't think that's an appropriate term, but disability influencers, disability figures, things like that, is they very rarely practice what they preach. After a while, I've got to ask, why do you even bother? Just go and do what you want to do. Go and be famous at this point. And I'm going to go from the start of the year, and we're just going to like continue. I'm going to create a timeline for you, because again, I'm that pissed off. And when I get pissed off for some reason, I create presentations, but here we are. So the start of the year, never told anyone this, I applied to be part of someone's showcase thing, whatever. And I won't name them because it'd be quite obvious who they are. Like, London's a very small place. At the time, I was pretty bedbound. And I said this outright. I said, hey, I actually can't leave my bed right now, but I've got the whole virtual show thing covered. Would that be okay? I put that in the application, you know, made sure that it was understood. And I said, congratulations, you're accepted. I was like, yeah. Opportunity, woo, paid opportunity. Was someone who, you know, I can connect with. Did I hear back from them after I inquired again about, you know, double checking about it being virtual? Did I fuck? And I didn't sign anything, so unfortunately I couldn't really, you know, argue against it. But don't call yourself like a disability coordinator if you can't coordinate. And if you can't coordinate, just say. Don't accept someone and then like kick them out. Please stop arranging meetings at midnight with me. Please don't do it. And then don't expect me to come already with notes and, you know, in a very energized state when it's midnight and I'm sick. And when I advocate and say, hey, look, I can't come to this meeting, it's at midnight for me. Suddenly I'm the problem. Thing number 3, please don't start conversations with me if you don't want to hear what I have to say. Because a lot of people, and this is just not one person I'm talking about, a lot of people misunderstand what I stand for. Again, a lot of people think I just talk about disability as a whole, not realizing that I talk about a lot of other things. I also have a lot of experience, like I just said at the beginning, but I'm also not a doctor. So me diagnosing you with certain symptoms, I'm not going to be able to help you with that. But in one incident, I had someone come into my DMs and not even a hello, just, here are some symptoms. What do you think they are? And I said, hello, I set a boundary. I can't talk to you about this. I don't know. Here's what I think, but go see a doctor. Okay. But you know, I'm feeling a little bit, insert word here because I won't say it's ableist. I'm feeling a little bit this, like, and I just can't concentrate anymore. I'm like, okay, I understand. That's probably, you know, your brain doing a lot of stuff. However, let's not use that word because it's ableist. Here is a source. well, you're dismissing my experience and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I'm not dismissing your experience. I'm just saying don't be ableist. Suddenly, I'm a complete bitch. And I'm like, then why'd you talk to me then? If I'm the devil incarnated, then like, don't talk to me when you ask for my opinion. Thing number 4, if you expect people to reply to you straight away, then don't start a conversation with certain disabled people. It's not worth the hassle. Like, there are times where I'll look at my phone and someone will start a conversation with me and I will just pass out because I'm tired. Even reading the message will wipe me out. But like, if you're expecting a reply straight away and then you get angry that I don't reply straight away, then just don't talk to me. Like, do you understand disability? I don't think you do. Don't get pissed off with people when they can't do their PIP form for you. And this has happened, not to me, but to the person that knows that about this. Don't get pissed off when a chronically ill disabled person can't complete their PIP form for you. The PIP process is unfair, I know. But like, you're going to the person that like says they're sick all the time? I don't think that's smart, do you? Okay. I'm gonna be a bit more serious now and talk about like disability organisations in the UK. Disability organisations in the UK, I've said this many a time and I'll say it again, they have a very weak understanding of what disability is and how it operates in the UK. And unfortunately, their organising has created this narrative that is not, one, wholly false. Like, the narrative that a lot of this is around PIP, a lot of this is around working, that has, you know, it's failed the movement. The movement has failed because of that. And why is that? Because a lot of these people are middle class. A lot of these people are white. A lot of you lot think it's okay to use AI, not realising the environmental impacts it has on black people. But you don't care because it doesn't affect you. You're all about accessibility. To that I say, get better at what you do. If you can't put text on a screen without having to use AI, then at this point, don't organise. It might not be for you. Or organise in a different way. Put a pin in that. The fact that it even needs to be said that, hey, have you thought about the intersections of disability and how it operates in the UK? Have you thought about how race and how people who are not white are going to be affected by bills? Have you thought about people who are mentally ill? Have they been advocated for? Have you thought about people who are like homeless? Who are COVID safe? Have you thought about any of that? No. So I can't sit there and say the movement, you know, had all these successes and stuff, when there are so many intersections and marginalised people in the UK who aren't even being advocated for. Have we even gotten to sex workers? Do you know what's happening to sex workers in the UK? Again, what is the intersectionality between disability and sex work? How many disabled people do you think are sex workers? If that is not part of your praxis, you're not doing a very good job. And I'm the one to say it. Unfortunately, because again, this is a bit of a tangent. I thought to myself, like, is no one listening to me? Like, I remember feeling quite down because I remember when I learned about this and I did the reading, I did the research about universal credit and how the bill was affecting people on universal credit. I remember being like, okay, let's go. Come on, people. Let's talk about it. I'm not saying I'm the only one that was talking about it, but I didn't really get much of a response. And at some point I was like, You know, it wasn't because I didn't know anything or wasn't saying it right. There's a reason for that. Put a pin in it. But yeah, disability organising in the UK, it is, unfortunately, like I said, it's middle class, it's white, and it doesn't really focus on the wider picture. And unfortunately, so many people have been failed because of it. A lot of people get dismayed when they do try and organise, especially if they're not white, especially if they're not middle class, especially if, you know, they're black, especially if they're poor, especially if they have mental health issues, if they have chronic illnesses, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're very marginalised and they try and start organising, I often find that they get either burnt out or dismayed, because when they have to interact with said organisations, and this is my last point, they get met with so much rudeness. And this is what inspired this video, is if you're in an organising group and someone of a marginalisation offers you critique, even if you disagree with it, you can say, thank you very much, well done on that. Or you could take it on board. Asking for free labour from someone who is mostly marginalised is why your movement fails. Because if you aren't ready to take on board ideas that seem out of your realm, then what is the point of you? What is the point? If you aren't ready to sacrifice certain things, then what is the point of doing it all? Just be famous. I think, and this goes out to everybody, in this moment we're in right now, it is calling for us to sort of sacrifice certain things, whether it be economically, whether it be social capital, like whether it be sort of cultural capital. I talk about all the time. I really could, if I wanted to, do a 180, go outside and be like, fuck, I'm gonna sing for you all. Am I gonna get famous overnight? No, but I'm in London. I could just walk and, you know, perform in a bar with 30 people. Someone could be like, Anusha, come open for, I don't know, Skin, whatever. Don't know why the fuck they want me to open for them, you know what I mean? Come open for Skin, come open for Janelle Monáe. Okay, great. And you know, that could be the start of my career. But I've chosen not to because I have integrity. I think at some point we need to evaluate our own actions and move with integrity. What are you willing to sacrifice in order to support everybody else? But if you're an organising group, then, and you know what, let me be specific. I think the very sad thing about organising groups is the fact that you have to manage their feelings in order to get anything done. Communication is built on ego. And because you are sort of managing people's egos, saying things like, hey, don't use AI, is suddenly a very controversial statement. Why is that? If I'm telling you, hey, AI uses slave labor, that should be enough for you to stop. If I'm telling you, hey, you asking me to do free labor is racism, you then can't tell me I'm wrong. Me saying, hey, I made a mistake here, and then suddenly treating black people different compared to their, you know, white counterparts is racism. Kicking out non-white people from an organization because you dislike that they fight against genocide is racism. Like, I shouldn't have to say this, but ultimately, the organising community groups, whatever, in the UK, because we have to temper with ego, we have to temper with managing white emotions, unfortunately, it means that these movements fail. And they fail the people that they claim to serve. We're all connected? No, the fuck we're not. Actually, that's a lie. We are. Because of your actions, we're getting fucked over. Because people focus so hard on PIP and working, it meant that a bunch of people who didn't work and a bunch of people who are mentally ill and don't have the fun mental illness and maybe on drugs and things like that, they didn't get their rights advocated for. And that's the issue with not looking into disability justice. You don't look at the whole picture. Is it not suspicious that assisted dying and cutting into disability benefits and the erasure of trans people in media, all connected? Isn't it suspicious that the NHS are just slowly like, no, fuck it, we ain't treating trans people. What the fuck do you mean? What the fuck do you mean? And even me, a cis woman, is finding it hard to get contraception. Isn't that suspicious? Isn't it suspicious that... I forgot what I was going to say. I've been talking for 20 minutes, I'm tired. Isn't it suspicious that trans people don't get any support whenever they go to the doctor? And neither do sex workers without fear of being reported. And neither do disabled people without fear of, you know, causing issues. I've had the police threatened on me because I made a complaint. When people say we're all connected, we are. I was taking a piss before. We are all connected. But in that, it means that you need to think of people outside of your realm. Think about people in the global south who, again, using AI will have an immediate effect on them. You need to think about people in other countries. Like, I want to take a pin out. If you say something like, oh, like, why are you talking about people in other countries when you're in England? Go fuck yourself. Because we are the reason why genocide starts, so we need to fight it. People really misunderstand what it is to fight for our right to live, you know? What it means to fight for this. And all of this shit is connected. So I think as someone who has been studying this for, you know, over 10 years at this point, I really implore people to look inside themselves and how they can do better. You know, for me, it was my commitment to the virtual space and to say, hey, my priority is people who don't have the option to get sick, who want information, entertainment, things like that, but they do not have the option to get sick. It is not, oh, COVID safe. It is COVID safe. And that's my prerogative. It might not be yours, but it is mine. And I think the thing is, when you stop thinking about everybody, you realize, again, these organizations fail. It's why people who try and advocate and try to accept breadcrumbs from organizations, when they'll say, hey, we want this to be a COVID safe event, and they suddenly say things like mask and courage, suddenly no COVID safe person wants to interact with you. Why is that? Well, dear viewer, it is because when you say mask and courage, you say, oh, we're nudging people to do the right thing, but we're not forcing them to. We're saying to people, oh, you have the option to protect other people's lives, but you don't have to. I am focusing on the people who do not have that option. And that's my prerogative. I am focusing on the people who do not have the option to get sick and do not have the funds to go to these events, who do not have the time because they may be caring for a child, maybe they start work. That's my prerogative. We could all do different things in our community, but ultimately, like, when you don't think of everybody, you serve nobody. And then again, at that point, just try and become famous because you're wasting everybody's time. But an Anusha point is, do not chat to me rude. Because the funny thing is I will be ruder. I will be ruder. And unfortunately, you might not like me when I'm rude. So I would just not. I've had so many people this year try my patience because they don't see me as worthy of, like, you know, education or understanding or whatever. They think that I'm just chatting up my ass and I'm just being, like, pedantic, or I am being arrogant, or I'm trying to be glib or whatever. You can think that, but the fact that you do is actually more of an issue of yourself. The fact that you don't see me as your peer, you don't see me as someone that's worthy of connecting with because I talk about things that make you feel uncomfortable, that's on you, that's not on me. And I think a lot of people are doing a lot of virtual signaling because they want to promote their music, they want to get into certain spaces or whatever, but they're not looking at it from a disability justice lens. They're just looking at it from a, I want to get what's mine. I think I'm going to end it there, but I have a little, like, post-credit section. I do think we need to talk about lockdown as it pertains to people's egos, because what I have found is I think a lot of individuals and a lot of figures are acting in a way that on the surface it's like, oh, I'm fighting for insert rights here, but what I think that's a cover for is, oh, I lost a lot of economic capital during these lockdowns, and I continue to because COVID is still going around. I got my COVID vaccine today. So because I lost either economic capital or social capital or cultural capital, I am not where I want to be. So what I'm going to do from now on is fight for our rights, but what I think that is a translation for is to get what's mine. And I'm here to break the news to you that you ain't entitled to shit, unfortunately. But I'll leave that one with you.